All right, welcome to the FireTalks series, a platform dedicated to highlighting women professionals in our industry and giving them the space to share their journeys, insights, and expertise. My name is Jennifer, and I am proud to introduce our very special speaker for today, Jessica Fernandez, Chief Strategy and Relations Officer at WM Refractories. She is also a TEDx speaker and a member of the Women at Refractories Leaderboard. Jessica will share her inspiring journey as a woman in leadership, showing how she has turned challenges into opportunities and change into strength. Without further ado, hello, Jessica.
Hi, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to see you. Yeah, I feel really good and excited for this talk.
Yeah, me too. How does it feel like to be the pioneering speaker of the Fire Talk series, the very first one?
Yes, well, it feels really special, and I'm very grateful. And it has been an honor to have been invited as the first guest of Fire Talks. And it's meaningful to know that this conversation will help open doors for many more voices to be heard.
For sure. Jessica, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, where you are from, and how you have paved your way to the refractory industry?
Sure. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico, and I've been part of the refractory industries for almost 22 years. And I work in a family business. That's how my journey in this field began. And over time, I became so passionate about it. And on a personal note, I'm married and have two daughters. My oldest one is 25, and she's in her last year of fashion design and living in Milan. And my youngest one, Angie, she's 23, and in this June, she graduated in robotic and digital system engineering. And we also share our home with three cats and three dogs. So it's always full of life.
What a beautiful big family. And what about tell us a bit more about the refractories and your role as their CSR role? What does it look like?
Well, it was founded in 1997, and actually it became as WAL de Mexico. And it was founded by my parents and Dan Lees, that is the grandson of WAL Refractories and was the president at the time. But in 2004, the company WAL Refractories was acquired by another company, so that's why we changed the name to WM Refractories. And in WM, we develop and manufacture tailor-made refractory solutions for the industries of steel, aluminum, cement, and copper. And we have a U.S. commercial branch, and it's called Altos Refractories. And well, actually, I have been in this position since the summer, and it has been really great to know how many too many clients and the other perspective, because before I was in the finance side of the company. So now I'm in this part of the company. It has been really inspiring, and all that I have the knowledge that I have learned and
Can
acquired.
imagine, right? How exciting, but also very hectic it must
Yes,
be for you. And Jessica, back in March, you had this powerful TEDx talk in Montemorelos. This is, by the way, available in YouTube. So to our listeners, well, viewers, we'll be sharing this link in the comment section. The title of this talk was El Poder de Decidir Quién Quieres Ser, literally translated, the power to become who you want to be. I watched it many, many times, and it really touched me personally. And today we will have the honor to have a glimpse of this talk, right, Jessica?
yes.
Perfect. So I'm very excited. Without further ado, I think the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for this introduction. It's a pleasure to share with all of you part of my story. If you please can switch, Jennifer. Thank you. Well, I think we have all been through moments that force us to stop, and not because we chose to, just because life simply make us slow down. And in my case, it happened in January 1st, 2003. I was driving with one of my daughters who was 2 years old at a time, and she was in her back in her car seat, back in the back seat. And then nothing. I don't remember the sound. I don't remember the impact. The next thing I remember is waking up with her crying. I saw the airbags deployed, a bit of smoke coming up from the hood, and I couldn't understand what had happened. So I tried to open my door. I couldn't. I couldn't either open the passenger's door. So I went to the back seat and unbuckle her and go out of the car. And it was up until that moment that I realized what had happened. We had crashed in a concrete barrier, so we never really knew what had happened. If I got fainted or if it was just exhaustion. We never looked into it. So at that time, the only thing that mattered to me was that my daughter was okay. So I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. So I took her to the doctor, and thank God everything was okay. There was no blood, no injuries. So we move on with our lives thinking that everything was okay. But almost 3 months later, things start to change. I began to have headaches. They got worse and worse every time. Loud noises hurt me a lot. And then I started getting lost in familiar places. There were days that even I was driving or walking in familiar places, I had to stop and look around, and I didn't recognize where I was. And there were times where I couldn't even remember where I come from or how to get back home. It was like if my brain suddenly disconnected. And also started noticing changes in my mood and the way I acted. I had no idea why. The father of my daughters and I went to a neuropsychiatrist and ordered several tests. By the time I was becoming more and more disconnected, there are many moments that I simply don't remember. But one thing I do remember is more or less that the doctor told me, you have an inflammation of your brain. It's nothing serious, but you will need rehabilitation. And the only thing is you probably recover about 85%. Before the accident, I could solve calculation in my head without effort. I was quick with numbers, analysis, and memories. And after the accident, it wasn't the same. I got frustrated because I couldn't focus or do things that before were really easy for me to do. And during therapy, they gave me exercises to help me regain my mental agility. But at that point, I couldn't even put together an 8 piece Winnie the Pooh puzzle. So at that time, I realized that it wasn't to be just like a short process. It wasn't going to be about try harder. It was going to be about deciding to rebuild myself little by little. So I spent a full year unable to drive, and for as for the changes in my mood and behavior, doctors treat them as something separate. They never considered that the two might be related. And although I didn't understand what was happening to me, I had no choice but to treat it as something emotional too. So, after going through all of that, I realized I needed to reconnect with something that made me feel useful and to remind me that I could still do things. So, toward the end of 2004, I decided to join the family business part time. And of course, my agility with numbers and analysis wasn't great, but I was determined to do my best. And while joining the company, meaning returning to professional life, for me, it was also a way to regain confidence. So little by little, I started adjusting and learning and finding my rhythm again. And well, as often happens, just when things seemed to settle, another big change came into my life. I got divorced. So to provide to my daughters, I started working full time and I buried myself in routine. Years later, I got married again, but my pace was still the same. No passes, no questions. I was busy, I was tired, I was constantly stressed. With time, everything started to feel normal. I had work, stability, a routine. But you know how it goes when you get caught up onto the day to day and you stop thinking, you just move like an autopilot. So, and then in at the beginning of 2021, something happened that completely shifted my direction. It was one of those moments that make you stop and look back because without realizing, it became one of the first events that started to turn my life around. In the most unexpected place, at the bottom of a chest, I found a large envelope and I didn't remember seeing it before. My name was printed on it outside. It was from one of the tests taken after my accident back in 2003. So back then, everything, well, in Mexico, everything was printed, not saved as a CD like it is now. So I opened the envelope. The X-ray weren't there, but at the bottom of that big envelope, I noticed a smaller one. So I opened it and I read a document inside. And that's where I found the real diagnosis for one of the tests that was made back in that time. And up till that moment, that diagnosis, neither my parents, my siblings, nor I knew ever existed. So it said, conclusion, the study from a structural point of view is normal. However, there is a functional alteration at the temporal level, bilaterally more pronounced on the left temporal side, with a decrease in an acetylstartate, which implies neuronal damage. So at that time, I didn't fully understand what that meant. I'm not a doctor, but the phrase neuronal damage um, it, um, it got my attention. So I decided to look into it, and I talked to several neurologists, and eventually realized that the result explains so much the years of confusion, disconnection, and emotional imbalance. So at the time, I started asking myself a lot of questions. It was a difficult moment, but it was also one filled with clarity. After so many years believing that everything I felt was purely emotional, I realized it wasn't. There was a real cause, a neurological one. So, after thinking about it for a long time, I understood that there was no point on tormenting myself and why. So, I choose to leave that behind and look things from a different perspective. So, for the first time, I asked myself, who was I and what was I like before the accident? And suddenly, memories start coming back, things I hadn't thought about years. I remember my college years and all the efforts I put, an incredible feeling of pride when I graduated with summa cum laude. I also remember studying for my flute diploma, 2 years and a half of lessons, constant practice and nerves before every recital, but at the same time, the huge satisfaction I felt every time I made progress. So, in the middle of all those memories, I realized something. That part of me, the one who loved challenges, who got excited about learning, improving, was still there. Just I had ignored her for so many years. So my life continued the same focus on work, stress, but what I had discovered helped me heal a part of myself that had affected me for so many years. And then one day, my daughters told me they wanted to talk to me. And I said, of course. And they said, Mom, you're always stressed, always busy, and never have time to talk to us. It was difficult, so I went silent. They were right. And then I asked myself another question. What am I teaching my daughters through how I live my life? That you have to live up to everyone's else expectations but your own. That life is just about fulfilling a role instead of discovering who you are or who you want to become. That life is only about responsibility and not about doing things with passion, and that thinking about yourself is selfish. So it was the first time I truly stopped to reflect on what I was building for myself. and I decided I needed to do something about it. So I started with the simplest thing I could do. Take one small step. I didn't make a radical change. I didn't make an announcement about transforming my life. No, I simply wrote down a goal. So I saw the possibility of certifying our company under ISO 9001 2015, and I thought, this will be a challenge, but it will be my first goal. It wasn't an epic or an inspiring goal, but it was something concrete and achievable. It wasn't easy, like anywhere else. At the beginning, there were resistance to change, but little by little, with the help with two people from our office and later with the WM team and a lot of effort, we managed to complete the implementation and get the certification. And that's when I understood something important, that small, consistent, and well focused actions can lead to big change. Then came another challenge. At the beginning of 2024, I learned about a call of application organized by the Mexico's Federal Ministry of Economics together with the Germany's Federal Ministry for Economics Affairs and Climate Action together with the GIZ, and it was a program that involved 9 months of online training, including 2 in-person weeks in Germany. So my first reaction was, okay, it was so interesting, but then I thought, don't apply, you're not going to make it. But the day before the deadline, I remember something that my mom always said. You already have the no, so try anyway. So I did. The call closes on Monday. So on Sunday, the day before, I sent an email to Mexico's Federal Ministry of Economics, and guess what? Yeah, it came back immediately with the phrase inbox full. So on Monday morning, first thing, I started calling again and again and again, and finally I got through the right person who very kind told me we received way more responses than expected. And yes, our inbox is full, but don't worry, I will send you an email with all the requirements. Just remember, today is the last day. So I said, oh, okay, no problem. The day went by, and while at work, I kept refreshing my inbox again and again. And then around 5:30 p.m., I finally received the email. I opened it and saw all the requirements, the documents, and I had to send, and the questionnaires I had to fill out. So I thought, there is no way I'm going to make it. I got really stressed, and then I told myself, you got nothing to lose, so I'll try. So I tried. So I started working, adapted some information I already had, filling out the forms, and at 11:50 p.m., I sent everything. But guess what happened? Exactly. The email bounced back again with the legend inbox full. So I got stressed all over again. And there's come one of my favorite parts of the story. One of my daughters helped me send it in another way, and at 11:58 we made it. And that moment was more than just a technical issue. It was a reminder that this whole process wasn't about me. It was about what my daughters were learning by watching me take action. A few days later, I got an email saying I had made it to the next stage, which included an interview. I got nervous, but also really excited. Then, a few weeks later, another email arrived. I had been accepted into the program. I was so happy. I told my daughters, I told my parents, I told my husband, and that's when I realized something important. You don't have to know how everything will turn out to have the courage to try. Then came another challenge, learning how to network. With time and with every new step I took, I realized that I needed to start connecting with people outside my usual circle. But it wasn't something that came natural to me. So I remember going to my first networking event. People would form small circles. Obviously, they knew each other. So I tried to join, but sometimes I didn't really know what to say. So I ended up like staying on the sidelines. just observing. But after every event, I remind myself something. It won't always go perfectly, but next time it will go better. So I repeated this phrase to myself over and over again. And even now I still do. So I start getting more involved through the company, joining different association, clusters, chambers. I also reach out to Women of Refractories network, which I'm truly proud to be part of. And I began opening up more on the professional social media, and little by little, opportunities started to appear. I began getting invited to boards, and over time I got more and more involved, and I started knowing people that they were really interesting, and I started learning a lot from a lot of people that they have a lot to, that I need to learn about. So and that path led me to the position I have today. And through all of these doors start opening that I could have never imagined reaching out if I hadn't taken those first steps. So looking back, I realized that every challenge, every small step, and every decision led me here. So today, I'm still the same person I was a few years ago. I still work hard, I'm still busy, and I still feel pressure, but something changed. Today, I choose what I want to build. Today, my daughters tell me that I'm their inspiration, and that's something truly priceless. It motivates me to give my best every single day. Today, I know that if something feels impossible, all I have to do is take one first step. So, if you ever feel stuck, you ever doubted that you're capable of achieving, and you ever thought your changing your story require a drastic turn, please remember this. It's not about knowing how things will turn out. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about trying and starting. So I'd invite you to take the first steps, because remember, you have the power to decide who you want to be.
Wow. Thank you for that powerful talk, Jessica. Can you hear me? I'm just
Yes.
checking. That was so inspirational. That was so powerful. And once again, I've heard this many, many times before, but every single time I feel moved by this personal story. Let me just check if we have some questions in the chat coming in. Yeah. Otherwise, I have a question for you, Jessica. Thank you for that beautiful story. But I'm curious, you have been part of the leaderboard committee of the Women at Refractories, I think starting earlier this year, and you've mentioned it during your talk. In what ways do you think women at refractories could help drive positive change within our industry?
Well, that's a great question. And well, first of all, being part of this network has shown me that how powerful connection can be. And I truly believe that Women at Refractories is already driving positive changes just by giving visibility to women's voices in an industry that has traditionally been male dominated. And that's where real changes start by showing that collaboration, inclusion, and diversity are not just valued we talk about, but things we can actually live and put into practice every day.
Beautiful. And what best advice could you give to our listeners, to our viewers, women and young talents, potentially looking up to you as a role model in this industry?
Well, thank you for saying that people might see me as a role model. I'm convinced that each of
That's
us
true.
has something valuable to contribute. And my advice would be trust yourself and stay focused. Don't need to have everything figured out to
Mhm.
take the first step. So every experience, even the difficult ones, teach you something valuable.
Yeah,
So don't
it's
get
true.
discouraged.
It really completely agree, right? It reflects on your storyline of it's going up and down, but somewhere down the road you found yourself to triumph over these, let's say, challenges in your life. That's really beautiful. And I hope that inspires the other viewers and listeners as much as it inspires me. I would just like to share with you here on the screen some of the comments that we have from the live chat. Uh, yeah, so some comment from Tobias, no question but a statement. You're a wonderful and inspiring woman. Proud to have you in the Women at Refractories.
Thank you.
And
And
another
thanks, Bobby.
comment here. Many thanks for the inspiring talk. Yeah, thank you very much for those who are listening and watching this live. And for the others, we will have the replay, so it will be available for the other people who are interested to watch and look back at your presentation today. Jessica, that was
Thank
really
you.
inspirational. Thank you for sharing with us. This is a very, I would say, personal, inspirational, yet somehow also quite relatable journey. So I am sure that this has inspired other members of the Women at Refractory community and to other listeners. So, any parting words to our viewers before we close the session?
Well, I just want to thank everyone who joined us today. And if there is one thing I like to leave you with is keep moving forward with purpose. Every step you take, no matter how small you think it is, has the power to make the difference. So thank you very much, Jennifer and everyone.
Thank you, Jessica. Women at Refractors community, if you wish to connect with Jessica, you can reach out to her through LinkedIn. Also, if you have not done so yet, you can always follow Women at Refractories, stay tuned to our next events, and be part of our growing community. Our next Fire Talks episode is scheduled on December 9th, Tuesday, with the title How to Become a Male Ally. We will have our very own Tobias Stiffen, the co founder of Women at Refractories. And with that, we thank you once again, Jessica, to our audience. See you in December for another Fire Talks episode. Hasta luego.
Bye
Ciao.
bye. To everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.